Today, Esbit stoves with the little fuel tabs. How fast are they to boil water? How much do the stoves weigh? Compactability? All the details about those, possibly compared to a Jetboil just for comparison's sake. Let's get into the video. Alright guys, so here's what I'd like to do first. I've got these two Esbit stoves. They are both the Esbit brand, and they're slightly different sizes, obviously. They compact down a little slightly different. I want to see how much they weigh, and then I also want to do a boil test. So I'm going to take this lightweight aluminum pot and just some standard bottled water here, 16 ounces of water, and just test both of them to see how fast they boil water under perfect conditions here in my garage. Obviously, if there were wind, I just want to preface it by saying, and if you watched my previous video on the Jetboil that I did in the snowstorm where it was outside, it was really cold, the pots were cold, the water was cold, the wind was blowing. That took 4.5 minutes to boil, even on a Jetboil that's supposed to only take 2.5 minutes. First things first, let's go ahead and weigh them. I'm just curious about this. So I'm going to change this to ounces, and then we're going to go ahead and weigh these guys. And I'll give you a little bit of B-roll with this other camera so you can see what's going on. So this is the first one. So that's this guy. And it weighs half an ounce, half of 1 ounce. All right. So let's put the other one on. So now this guy weighs 3.1 ounces. So pretty significant difference there. Both of them are extremely lightweight, but a big difference in the weight nonetheless. So with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get into the boil test. Okay, here we go. So I am going to take these little Esbit, actually these are not the Esbit brand heat, these are the heat tabs. They're the same basic thing, and we're gonna test it with these first. I might do a separate test with the Esbit cubes specifically. The Esbit cubes are actually slightly larger. That doesn't mean they're going to put out more heat, because you technically are supposed to break those in half so that they fit onto the trays. These just fit nicely in the little trays, so I'm going to go ahead and just use one of these, and then I might compare and do it again with the bigger tab. So we're going to get the water poured in here. 16 ounces bottled water. Start the timer as soon as this kind of gets set on top of there. Alright, she's burning pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. And we'll see how long this takes. I'm not going to make you wait 8 minutes or however long this takes. I'll end up speeding up the video for you and cutting it back in, but just so you know, that's what we're doing. Into the timer, we are just over 5 minutes, and this is what we're looking like right now. Still burning, definitely heating up, getting some steam there, small bubbles on the bottom, but still no boil yet. And just as comparison, the Jetboil outside in a snowstorm in the wind was done at 4.5 minutes. Obviously the Jetboil should be better for boiling water. It's what it's specifically designed for. These Esbit stoves are, perfect conditions kind of things, so that's what we're testing. All right, well, that fuel tab is all but gone out. We're sitting at about 13.5 minutes, still no boiling pot. So I think we're going to call that done on that one and switch it over. All right, now that our pot is cooled back down, I am going to go ahead and get the water put in. We're going to do this test all over again with this stove. I guess one thing that's kind of a nice little feature of this one is that it's got these edges on it which could protect from the wind depending on which way you set it. I don't know. Obviously we're in perfect conditions here in the garage, so it shouldn't matter much, but as soon as this lights up and I put the pot on, I'm going to start the timer again. You'll see that running. And again, I'm not going to leave the camera running the whole time. We'll just kind of cut in and out and fast forward and get her done quicker for you. So here we go. Okay, starting the timer. And I know you didn't see, I realized you didn't see me put the lid on with some of the earlier footage with the last one, but rest assured I did, and that definitely makes a difference for how much heat stays in the pot and allows the thing to heat up. So we'll see if there's any difference here. I expect there to be no difference in the time, or relatively small difference in the time. We'll see what happens. You can see we're got some bubbles forming on the bottom at 4.5 minutes. Again, just comparing that to the Jetboil in poor outdoor conditions, wind, snowstorm, whatever. Jetboil was done by now. Alright, so we're here at about the 9.5 minute mark, and we're still not boiling. Got some tiny bubbles on the bottom, but this fuel tab is almost completely out. See if I can get it on there for you. See that? I don't know if it's in focus completely, but that fuel tab is almost completely out. And so I'm going to call that good. Sitting here at 10 minutes. We'll probably stop the clock at 10 minutes on that one. Not boiling, just small bubbles on the bottom. So we're going to call that good. I am going to switch to the other tablets on and do this test over again and see if those slightly larger tablets will get a boil out of these Esbit stoves. So I'm just going to use half of these. I'm just going to break it right down the middle. It's still slightly larger, almost by twice the size as those smaller round tabs we were using in the first place. I'm anticipating this will boil a little bit faster with these slightly larger tabs, just because there's more surface area maybe on the pot. I really don't know. That's why we're doing this experiment. So break these guys in half, and we'll go from there. All right, our pot has cooled down to room temperature again, like it was. Dumping the water in. Get this guy cranking, and then we'll start the timer. All right, it's going pretty good. Starting the timer. See what we get this time, guys. Here's what we're dealing with. Definitely more significant bubbles, but not a full boil. Still, seems better than the smaller fuel tabs. Interesting. Alright guys, we're sitting here at just over the 8-minute mark, and we've got bubbles coming off the bottom, which I indicate that as a rolling, not a rolling boil, but it's a boil. Let's see if I can get a better angle for you. Definitely boiling at about 8 minutes with this one. So we're going to call that time, and I'm going to switch to the other stove. Kind of interesting. I don't really know the science, but if anybody wants to leave me comments and let me know why that kind of crystallizes like that after you blow it out, I'm interested. Alright guys, here we go again. Pot has cooled down to room temperature. Adding the water. We'll test the other stove. See if it has any noticeable difference over the small one. Give it a chance to get going here. Make sure it's going good. Alright, here we go. Alright guys, checking in here at 4.5 minutes. Here's what we got. Bubbles forming on the bottom, starting to lift off, but not a full boil yet. That's interesting, seeing how... So that's fairly interesting. Just under 5 minutes, and we're getting closer to a boil. This stove seems to be running a little hotter. Maybe because those wings are on there, it just kind of focuses the flames just a little bit to stay on the pot, whereas the more air gets through to that other small stove, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna keep an eye on it here. We've got boiling water off of this guy. It's almost a rolling boil actually there at 6.5 minutes with this stove compared to the other one. So that's interesting. Let me wrap this up. I'll come back with some final thoughts. All right, so some interesting findings just as I'm kind of wrapping this up. Number one thing that we can learn is that these heat tabs don't heat evenly. Okay, so for the first one we had something like 13 minutes and no boiling water, and the second one was like 10 minutes and no boiling water. You'd obviously want to go with the lesser just for, you know, just to be safe. So we can say that these will burn for 10 minutes and they don't boil a pot of water in perfect conditions. So maybe for starting a fire these would be great, but for, you know, getting a pot to a rolling boil, not great. Then we switched to the actual Esbit style, and of course we tested both stoves, the tiny little folding ultra lightweight, ultra compact stove from Esbit, and kind of the slightly larger folding compact stove from Esbit. But it seemed that you know, with those small tabs the results were similar. Again, did not boil the water. Lasted about 10 minutes on this one. This one lasted for 13 minutes or so before I stopped it. So we can't really make a determination other than to say those particular fuel tabs are not efficient, and we could not get boiling water out of that. Then we switched over to the actual Esbit brand fuel tabs, broke one of those little bricks in half and did our similar test again, and we got boiling water in something like 8 or 8.5 minutes. I'll put it on the screen, I can't remember, my old brain. Out of the little kind of open design, small compact stove. And then the one with kind of the wings here, this guy, boiled the water in about 6.5 minutes to a rolling boil in, again, perfect conditions here in the garage. So I would say that probably these wings had a little bit of something to do with that, just kind of not necessarily blocking wind. Again, we're in a garage, it's perfect conditions, but just kind of keeping the heat contained a little better in a smaller space. That would be my determination. You guys can leave me some comments, let me know what you think. So that is not too bad. This is one of the stoves that I keep in my wife's get home bag that's in her vehicle all the time. I have been keeping this tiny little compact guy, and I gotta be honest, I think I'm gonna get rid of this guy and get another one of these. And I was running the little small round fuel tabs in here before this test. I think I'm gonna switch to the bigger Esbit style cubes and use one of these stoves, because I know for sure I can at least you know, get boiling out of it. Given a winter snowstorm and you're out in the wind, these results are going to vary considerably, but in perfect conditions at least, works quite well. Hopefully you got something out of the video. Leave me some comments with some video ideas. I'm up for all of your ideas. I've got pages and pages of my own, but if you guys want to see something specific, you let me know. I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe if you have not already. Share the videos with friends, because the only way the channel is going to grow is if you help me grow it by telling other people about it. Guys, thanks for watching today. Every day ready for the adventures we choose and the emergencies we don't.